Hi, this video is a short actual play of Dungeon Crawl Classics using my Dungeon Crawl solo booklet. Uh, now, I actually played through this adventure on a video from my short series of videos for my patron. Um, now, the intention was to edit them all together and show you the actual, all the solo play parts together, but my video editing skills are inadequate for that. So, what I'm doing today is I'm going to try and recreate that or replay the adventure, all in a single take. Now, it actually took several hours to do for real. So what I'm going to do is try and limit myself to just about 30 minutes of solo play here, and really to showcase the rules in action rather than to complete the adventure. Now, as preparation, now I'm just going to flip through the uh, uh, PDFs that I've got open here. What you're looking at here is Portal Under the Stars. This is from the Dungeon Crawl Classics core rulebook. You'll also find it in the Lankmar Quick Start, which is about $5, and gives you the core rules and the adventure in there. I've got 4 level characters, and I do not expect any of them to survive. Because the Portal Under Stars is designed for 15 to 20 level characters, and I've only got 4. But they should demonstrate the mechanics for dealing with a party and NPCs and things like that. I've got the uh, Judge's Guide to Newen. I don't know how you pronounce that, but I'm going to be using this as a source. And I've got my solo rules here, which I will be using for the icons, and I will um, dip into the mechanics as needed for that. So I've chosen to play a published adventure this time because that's one of the things that people struggle with, and I will show you kind of my prep for that and how I get that working. Right. So the first thing I do with a published adventure is I skim through it looking purely for DC checks. So if we look here in area 1.1, is that on the? Yes, it is on the screen. Can you see there's a DC 14 intelligence check here, a DC 15 strength check there, 15 DC pick lock check there, DC 10 reflex save, DC 20 search. Um, so there's DC checks in here, so I can just skim through. I'm not looking for what they're actually searching for or what the implications are, just what they are. Now, I have a post-it note here. Now, what I've done, if I can get this on screen, so there's at this end, there we go, that's 1.1, 1.3, 1.4. These are the locations on the index. That down the other side, down here, that's the intelligence, the strength, the reflex, the search, intelligence, reflex, spell. So whatever the check was, I didn't include the DC 15 pick locks for a thief because I don't have a thief. I saw that and I just don't need it. Also on this note, there's 4 columns along here, and they are filled with numbers because I've got 4 characters, and what I've done is I just went through first of all noting down the location, all the different types of DC checks that needed, went through the entire adventure like that, or I actually started with the amount I thought I was going to play in each session, and then afterwards I just sat there with a d20 and I rolled the DC check for every character. Now if I bring that up one last time, can you see that I've got a natural 20 there? There's a 1 there. There's a 1 there. So my handwriting is terrible. But now, because I know I've got a natural 20 and I've got some natural 1s. When I do come to play this and I read what the actual check is for, I don't have to stop at this point and get the dice out and roll for every character that's in that scene or that situation. I can kind of say, well, this character has got the first character in the first scene in the first check has got a natural 20. Whatever that is going to be obvious to them right from the start. And likewise, if I've got a natural 1, I just know that that character is not going to understand it, or he could try and lift something or break something and it just isn't going to work. It becomes purely narrative because we already know the outcome, despite the fact the outcome was random. So that's it. I've gone through the entire adventure and I've pre-rolled every DC check. I have not applied any modifiers to it because stats could change, anything could happen. So I don't even know who's going to survive and who's going to be there to make the checks at each stage. So that's that bit. The next thing I am going to do is I read the player introduction. And in this adventure, there's an old boy in the village that 50 years ago there was this conjunction of stars, and he saw this portal and the potential for fantastic riches on the far side of it, but he was too scared to take that opportunity, and so he didn't, and he lived out his life in a village in poverty. Now, come around 50 years later, he's kind of almost on his deathbed, and he's told the party of characters about what he saw, and it was this conjunction of stars, and how he didn't take his chance. And the start of the adventure is that this group of 4 have decided to take that chance, and the adventure starts as they step through the portal from the sort of the fields behind. They step through this magical portal and they end up in. Now, can you see on the map? We've got Area 1 right down here at the bottom. They're in Area 1 and they are confronted with a door. Now let's skip on to Area 1. Now, I can't remember whether I said this or not. The solo playing as a spectator sport can seem really dry and boring because all of the action takes place in the player's mind. So I've read the description of the portal area and the fields, and I can imagine it all, and I can imagine my characters and how they're interacting and any banter that's going on between them. I'm not going to sit here and play every sort of nuance between these characters, and if you want to play this yourself, you will see your characters in these actions. In solo play, there is no loss of detail between what the game master imagines and what the players imagine once it's been described to them, because you are one and the same. So if it seems really dry, like there's no actual role playing going on, there is, or there was. It happens in your own mind, and you can pause over a scene and you can imagine the scene as much as you like when you're doing it. It's just today I'm trying to just showcase the rules. Right. So anyway, as we enter Area 1 or 1.1, it's called the portal. At this point, I read the player's text as if I was playing it. As if I was running it for a group of other players. So it says here, even though the hallway is visible from only one side of the portal, you tread on solid flagstones. The starlight fades as it reaches into this hallway, which dead ends ahead with a stout iron-banded door. Jewels or crystals in an odd assortment of star shapes are inscribed on the door. Now those stars, those jewels and crystals are what the old guy saw 50 years ago. That was kind of your motivation to try and find these and get out of there. Now I'm going to. At this point, you would pause and you'd imagine the characters, seeing this door, examining the door, and how are they going to react. And the way I deal with these, with having a party, is you jump into one character, and that becomes your central character, and the everyone else is then controlled through a series of DC checks. And you kind of say, right, okay, who is this character? If I bring up the characters again, we've got a gravedigger, a caravan guard, an elven forester, and a turnip farmer. Now, I would have said the personalities I'm giving these guys is the gravedigger's a bit kind of earthy, no nonsense, not scared of anything. He's so used to people being scared of being in the graveyard when they're just just mounds of earth, most of the graves. He's no nonsense, not that scared of anything really. The caravan guard is the reason ends up in this village is he got sacked. He's the world's worst caravan guard. He's if we just look at these stats of his, he's got a strength of 6, personality of 6, intelligence of 6, luck of 6. He is a useless guard and not particularly pleasant. He's no good at conversation and he's just plain unlucky. No one really wanted him around. And that's how he ended up in this village. He just got dumped there. The Elven Forester is actually not bad. He's he's strong, fit, agile. He's smart. He's not particularly lucky and not particularly strong personality. Um, but to the other characters, he's probably a bit exotic. Being there aren't that many elves around. So I can imagine they look up to him a little bit. And the turnip farmer, I reckon he's the most timid of the four. Um, he's not particularly exceptional. No, that timidity fits in with his personality of 4. So this is the group. So you've got. Um, I imagine the gravedigger is actually quite a nice chap. I imagine the elf is actually quite pleasant. Um, the caravan guard isn't particularly pleasant at all, and the turnip farmer is just a little bit, probably fearful of having made the wrong decision in the first place. So those are the characters, and so we're looking at this thing. The I, Now we're in there, they're in front of this door. I'm going to read more of the player text and just see what challenges they're going to be facing. And it says here that the hallway appears only under certain constellations related to the empty star. The starships in the door approximate to the nighttime sky visible through the reverse end of the hallway. If the characters wait 2 hours, movement of the nighttime sky makes the view back through the portal reveal the same star pattern as the is inscribed on the door. A character realizes this with a DC 14 intelligence check. So now we've got our first intelligence check. Now, I think the first in was the gravedigger because I said he's kind of fearless to an extent. And this is where we've got that natural 20 on the uh, sorry, excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. So it says here that if the characters wait 2 hours, movement of the nighttime sky makes the view back through the portal reveal the same star pattern as inscribed on the door. And that's the intelligence check. Now, when I pre-rolled this, the gravedigger, who I thought would be the first through the portal, the most outgoing, rolled a natural 20. So I think, right from the start, that's all. He's used to working outdoors as a grave digger. Um, that I think would be obvious to him. Now it was a DC 14 check. Now I'm just going to run through the other characters. So if I bring up the characters a second, my rolls were so it's a intelligence check. So we had a +1 there. So he had a natural 20, and it would have been 21. It's fine. Um, the caravan guard. Now, the caravan guard equal Charlie. He rolled a 4 with a -1 for his intelligence check. So that's a 3. So he's no idea at all. Um, Eric the elf there. He's got a +2. He rolled a 13. So that's a 15. So he understood that as well. Now, uh, Ted the turnip farmer, he's got no intelligence modifier. He rolled a 14. And as it was a 14 check, 3 out of the 4 of them, uh, you all recognise the fact that that is the night sky, and that they're a little bit early, if anything. So those 3, but Charlie, he doesn't get it. He's and the question is Charlie prepared to wait 2 hours on the off chance that something bad could happen in 2 hours? Because no one says that anything good is going to come of this this conjunction. No, let's get my dice roller back up. So I'm going to make a little DC check. I think it's 3 against 1. I think Charlie's a bit belligerent. I'm still going to say it's 50-50. 10 plus Charlie will you agree with the majority. Anything under that, and Charlie is going to you not go for it. Now the red one was the D20. That's a 16. Charlie in this case accepts that when the other's saying no, let's just wait until those line up and see what happens. And he agrees with them. It's 3 against 1. He doesn't want to fall out just yet. And so they do wait. Now it says here in the description, for the door, any other time the door won't budge. Treat as locked, DC 15 strength to break down, but no one's forced the door. If they do wait, the door just swings open easily after the they've waited. So they do. They wait in this passageway, watching the stars. I can imagine them, impatiently trying the door occasionally, and then suddenly it just opens up. So that's great. So if we look beyond that, the next thing that you've got here is this rectangular room with these 4 figures in it. Now let's have a read what the characters see. Across from this room is another stout door. 4 iron statues flank the door, 2 to a side. Each statue depicts a different fighting man in a round iron helmet and thick scaled armor, holding a long spear in a throwing position. All the spear tips are aimed at the door through which you've just entered. Now, my instinct was that they haven't entered; they've just swung the door open and they can see this. So the thing is, do they enter? Now, I think the question is does Charlie the caravan guard? Trying to get their head straight. Yeah, Charlie. Does he push straight in? He was probably feeling a little bit out of sorts because everyone else was saying to wait and he didn't want to, and it turned out they were right. I'm going to do a little 10 plus again. Does Charlie go straight into the room and try the next door? And yes, he does. So he's not waiting, regardless of what the others say. He's going straight in. So let's see what happens. The statues are mechanical creations of the war wizard. They wait for an opportune moment and suddenly hurl their spears at the characters. 4 spear attacks, +2 to hit, D8 damage. The spears throws are clearly mechanical. Statue. Right. So I'm going to say that all 4 spear attacks get thrown at Charlie as he enters. Now, it does say it throws them at the characters, but because the adventure was written for up to 20 characters and I've got 4, what I've said is they're all going to target one character. Um, it's going to make the adventure a little bit more survivable for this small group of 4, but not necessarily for Charlie as he goes through the door. Now, Charlie, let's have a look at Charlie. He's AC 10, he's got 2 hit points. Now, they're going to need to, the mechanical things are going to have to roll 8 plus to hit him, and they're going to do a d8 damage. So let's roll the first one. We'll keep an eye on the red dice. 8 plus 2 is 10. He gets hit by the first one, and the d8 does 7 damage. Okay, that's good night, Charlie. So I'm just going to put a little note here. Oops, I should have said killed in. Killed in 1-2 spear. It's just so afterwards I've got a little record of what happened to these poor guys. As I was saying before, I have played through this once before and it did not end well. So he rushes in and there's this kind of all of these spear mechanical things. They throw the spears and then they just freeze and they're hung there. Poor old Charlie. Let's just see how many spears hit him. The second one missed. The third one hit him, and so 2 out of the 4 spears hit Charlie. And let's just roll that second here. I just purely for he took 7 damage on the first attack and 7 on the second. He took 14 damage there off these 2 spears. I'm just going to roll. If I get an exceptionally high roll on those other 2 spears, they might have hit someone between them. But no, that was 2 low rolls. Everyone else cowers away from the doors. These things suddenly start moving. They throw the spears. Poor old Charlie's almost pinned to the he's completely impaled. He gets thrown back across the floor, nearly his back towards the portal, and he is no more. Everyone else hides behind the doors, slams the door and waits, and there's no sound from the other side. And eventually, who is the Albert? Albert takes a peek around there, and there are these mechanical figures. They are, completely still and currently unarmed. And the others kind of push him in, and Charlie goes in. The figures don't move, and he has a little look around at these figures, and they appear to be completely inert. So he has a look, and eventually he calls the others in, and these spears, the actual characters are very poorly armed. Now, Charlie doesn't need his short sword anymore, but there's also these spears. So now the spears do a d8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give. So the gravedigger, he's only got a shovel. So Albert grabs the spear. What else has he got there? And his lucky clover. So we've got a 4-leaf clover. Albert doesn't mind. He's quite happy to make better use of stuff. He takes the short sword That's a D6 -1, and the iron spear 1d8. Now, Eric doesn't want a spear because it's iron. Oops. And being an elf, he does want to use iron. So he's going to avoid that. But Charlie, I think I'm just going to make a quick intelligence check for him. Does he realize that the uh, does he? Oops, dice roll is frozen there. Um, Another 20. Cool. Yes, he does realize that the armor can be removed. So I'm going to give these guys the two of them that will wear it. Where's my text editor gone? There it is. So they grab the scale armor, um, which gives them +4 AC. So that's AC 14. Has anyone got a agility check on here? So um, he didn't have one, did he? Agility. Oh right, okay. So it's that's actually 13 because of his agility, and 15 because he's got a +1 on his agility. Now they're feeling a little bit more confident now. They've got some armor, they've got helmets, they've got scale mail, they've got actual genuine real weapons. And now this time, when they approach the door, what they do is they're going to use the spears and push the door open, and it's not locked and it's not trapped and everything's fine. So I'm now going to read the next little bit of the adventure and the player text. And what it does, it describes the room. This spacious chamber has a marbled floor and a door on each wall. At the far end is a towering granite statue of a barbarian, one hand outstretched with an index finger pointing towards you. The muscular savage wears animal hides, but his eyes are intelligent, and his engraved neckline sports amulets and charms. A grimoire hangs beside a broadsword on the hip of a 30-foot tall monument. So let's just flick back a page. So we're in this chamber here, in chamber 3, and there's the figure, and there's all these little marks across it. Now, if we read a little bit more on there, it says here, observant characters DC 12 intelligence check notice many fine scorch marks on the marble floor as if campfires have been started here. So now I can go back to my little post-it note, and that DC. Oh, first of all, let's kill off Charlie. I don't need his DC checks anymore. Now the DC checks for my guys here. It was 13 for Albert, 16 for Eric, and 5 for Ted. And if we check those, so we're now talking about intelligence. So the 13 became a 14 for Albert, and the 16 became an 18 for Eric, and the 6, it remains a 6 for Ted. So these two, Albert and Eric, say, "Oh, look at those fires. Maybe these doors lock. And people are trapped here, and they had to build the fires. They're not sure entirely why these fires are here, but they have noted them. Now, I've just decided that." These guys are going to follow the left-hand wall. They don't want to get lost, and it's this basic thing. If you follow one wall of a maze around, you'll eventually come back to the beginning. So that's it. That's their plan. They're going to follow the left-hand wall. And oops, no, not that one. up a bit. Here we go. The left-hand wall will take them along here and to this door heading to chamber 4. So let's see what happens. So the granite statue weighs many tons and rotates freely on a well-oiled but concealed base, with a deep bass of groaning sound. It swivels to track the character's movements. If the characters split up, it tracks the largest group. The extended hand marks its line of sight. So this would immediately freak these guys out. There's as soon as they start to move, it starts to track them, and they know what happened to Charlie, so they immediately dive back to the exit so they can close that door. And now it says here, if any character moves to exit the room, including opening a door or leaving as they arrived, which is what I intend to do, the statue sends forth a scorching burst of flame from its fingertip, +6 to hit, 1d6 damage, 1d6 additional burning damage each round thereafter until a d6 10 reflex save is made to put out the fire. Once provoked, the statue launches flames continuously once per round up to 5 rounds, at which point its fuel supply is exhausted. So as soon as my guys decide, they went in cautiously, it moved, they all headed for the back. So I think that my thoughts was, it's the instant that it moved. So I'm going to say that Ted is the one at the back. He's the one that's going to take this first hit at least. So let's see how that pans out for them. It's a D20 +6 to hit, and that's a 19, 25. That's a guaranteed hit, and the D6 here has done 4. So Ted has taken 4 damage. Now let's have a look at the characters. Ted has got 3 hit points. Ted's dead. So poor old Ted. Killed in 1.3. Burnt to death. And that's the end of poor old Ted. Now, the others cower behind the door. They shut that door. There's fire. They can feel this burning oil or whatever it is being fired at the door. And then suddenly it goes quiet. And poor old Ted didn't make it out. And they're going to wait a short while, and they cautiously, so using that spear again, push the door open, and it doesn't start firing again. Ted is now burning out on the ground, and they eventually try and they will enter. Well, actually, let's see. Do they retreat? Do they flee? I think it's unlikely. 15 plus is that Albert's not in the mood to flee. And what about Eric the elf? No. They both of them are they're determined that they're going to press on, and they kind of sneak into that room. They try and sidle along the wall, and the thing turns towards them, but it doesn't shoot. And they don't know it's out of fuel, but they're just waiting for it to attack them again. It does say here that they can use a door as a shield, but that didn't occur to them at all. And at the last minute, they make a rush for the door to area 1.4, which is here. So they kind of make a dash to it, and the doors open, and I can imagine the statue clicking as it tries to fire, but it's empty. And they get through into this little side passage, and they head along here, and they cautiously get to that last door, and we come to the next bit. So let's have a little. They wait. They can't hear anything at the door. They try a door, and it gently opens, and there's a wide stone thrown facing you from the centre of the square room. The walls are hung with primitive clay tablets, head high with ins- and inscribed with strange symbols. Each tablet is a few feet wide, and there are dozens hanging on the four walls. However, your attention is riveted to the enormous snake that has crawled out from behind the throne. It is ringed with crimson bands of colour and colour of hellfire, and has a demonic horn in the centre of its fanged head. Okay, the way I've played these characters so far, they are not the bravest. That door wasn't locked, but I think they're going to try and wedge the door with Albert has got a shovel, and he is going to try and wedge that door with a shovel, and Eric helps him as well. So we're going to use Eric's strength, and I'm just going to roll a d20 and add the 3 to it. That's a 9. So I'm going to give the snake a DC 9 uh, difficulty to try and push that door open. And these guys, they've wedged the door and they're getting out of there. They flee back towards the statue chamber. Now let's just see if the snake does manage to open that door. And no, it doesn't. It doesn't push through the door. So for these guys, they're now back in this chamber between 3 and 4. They can hear that snake on the other side of the door. They're not going in there. No way. That's it. So they come back into here, and the statue's still turning, but it doesn't shoot at them. And this time, they try and make their way around to this entrance to chamber 6. And let's just read what happens as they look through the crack in the door of chamber 6. This enormous chamber is filled with a large rectangular pool of water running the length of the room. Diffused light shines upwards from the pool, illuminating the wide pillars lining the walls. Strangest of all, however, are the man-shaped crystal creatures visible in the shadows. They shuffle about slowly in their strange crystalline bodies, sparkling like jewels. Now, whenever they catch the light in the they sparkle like jewels whenever they catch the light in the pool. There is a door at the far end of the chamber. Now, these don't seem quite so threatening as the snake, and the snake didn't try and follow them once they blocked that door. So let's just have a quick look at what they've got amongst them. Could they block this door if they needed to? So what have they got here? Any unusual equipment? So he didn't bring the mule, or he's got a trowel. Okay, so he's got a trowel and he's got a grappling hook, but I think a trowel would make a decent wedge. So their plan is, if anything attacks them, they are going to flee out that door and try and use the trowel as a wedge. It worked last time, they stick with it this time. So, spear in one hand, trowel probably in his belt, or close to hand anyway. They're going to sneak into area 1.6. And now I'm going to read what's actually happening here. So this room represents the war wizard's vengeance against his enemies. He transforms his foes into living crystalline statues, then traps them here. Now possessed of only animal intelligence, they are no longer capable of speech, nor do they need sustenance. They have wandered this room for millennia, trapped by an unending hell of their crystal bodies. There are 6 crystal statues. Their features are hard to discern because of their translucency, but they're perfect replicas of eons-old proto-human warriors who were transformed to create them. They are attracted to light and shuffle towards torches or lanterns. They do not attack, but their approach may seem menacing and they will defend themselves. If they reach a torch or other light source unmolested, they will simply stand next to it and absorb the warmth. Now, my guys don't actually have a torch. I think it said there was a kind of a dull ambient light, or it was the first bits were moonlit. Um, so they don't have a torch. So these things are just shuffling around. So let's just have a quick look at the map a bit here. And what we've got is, the pool. We've got the statues. The first things that they see these things moving, so they retreat, and nothing comes to the door. And so my guy, they'll open the door again, and they're still shuffling. They haven't reacted to them, and they're going to be brave. They've decided they're not fleeing. They're not getting out of here, so they're going to press on. They step into the room, and nothing bad happens. So we're edging around the left, so I'm going to read a bit more and see what happens. Eventually they're going to hit this door in the top northeast corner. And so let's read on a little bit more. So they're going to have a look at the pool, certainly. So the pool is 3 foot deep. Its bottom is painted with pitch black and encrusted with thousands of crystals forming the stars in the nighttime constellation that is unfamiliar. It is a fact that the sky as it will appear 20,000 years from. Okay, that's not really relevant. The light shining through the crystal stars from area 8. Okay, the light. So that I hadn't thought of stealing the crystals, so we will ignore that for the time being. Right, so they're not stealing the crystals. So nothing seems to happen at that point. So let's have a look. So area 8. Does it mention that? No. So there's no real mention of that. I believe that opens up into here. So if they step through, they're going to be transported to Area 7. And the strategy room, the spiral. Oh, it's a spiral staircase. So they are going to head down the spiral staircase. They're sticking to that left wall. The spiral staircase leads to a long, narrow room with a door on the far wall. There are several ledges holding miniature clay soldiers, and 2 tables with armies of opposing soldiers are laid out on the around buildings and hills. So there are the clay soldiers. The war is right. So right. So will they investigate the clay soldiers? Or in my head, these guys are just looking for treasure. Now they've Albert's rolled a 2. He's not thought to investigate the clay soldiers. Now, I believe he's got intelligence of +2. That's a 12. Yeah, I was thinking of a 10-10 for that. So yes, Eric does decide to investigate the soldiers. So let's see what it says about them. 4 of the clay soldiers are solid silver. They're the generals and clear leaders of 4 armies laid out on the 2 tables. DC 10 search check. They're worth. Right. So this was the search check in area. So I've actually already rolled this. This is area 1-7. And no, he doesn't find them. The search check here was a 9 for Albert, a 3 for Eric, and a 1 for Ted, a natural 1. And none of them spot the generals are actually silver. So no, they don't. And actually, at that point, I'm going to stop because I've already gone. I said I'm going to do about half an hour, and it's already been three-quarters of an hour. So really, I haven't used the solo rules particularly. The basic question rules in my solo rules are DC 5, DC 10, DC 15 for very likely, 50-50, very unlikely. And these rolls that I was making, these D20 rolls, just to see, does did who was he? What was the gravedigger called? No, so the guard. It was Charlie, wasn't it? Charlie's behaviour was controlled through a simple DC roll because I was playing Albert, and you know, but that's the way any question that I could have asked, I can resolve them through the DC checks. If I needed an open, I will quickly tell you about the open question rolls. Now, open questions are questions that can't be answered yes or no. And so a closed question is a yes no. That's what the D20 roll was for. I decided would he act this way or not, and I was rolling for that. A closed question is easy to resolve. An open question can't be resolved that way. And the way I resolve them here is using an icon based. Well, actually, I use two different methods in this booklet. I'm going to, here's the open question rules, and I'm going to describe the icon method first of all. So let's bring up the dice roller again, and the D16, which is this funny kind of, don't know, brownie one. Think of these as four blocks of four icons. So 4 blocks of 16, 4 by 4. If you want to answer an open question, you do a little bit of like word association. Now, I'm going to use a question of imagine these. What do the characters think that these clay soldiers are for? Now, that's not a yes no answer. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll the d16 once, and I get a 5, and I'm going to roll it again, and I get a 12. So, the fifth icon is this one, which I don't know, looks a bit like an eclipse, maybe a magic ring, and the 12th one is the book. And using a kind of a word association there, I'm going to think that's eclipse and a book, so that's knowledge. That my characters decide that these clay soldiers are some kind of maybe in a calendar type thing, so that maybe there's enough of them to work out the days and months, some kind of almanac, or way of recording sort of time or celestial events, and that's what they think these pieces are for. And so that's how it works. You take these two pictures, you put them together, and you try and with the context of what you've seen so far in your adventure so far, you mix together context, history, and the icons, and you derive a meaning from it. Now, the same icon could mean completely different things in different situations, and you can roll off the same grid of 16 for as long as you want. Sometimes you can attach a particular meaning to an icon, and it's good to use that same grid of 16 for as long as you can, because that icon then derives extra, a kind of consistency to it. Now, the other option is what I call the words option, and I will need the text editor for this one. Now, what do you do? So that was icons. The other one is called the words method. And what you do is you use dice, say D100s and D6s or whatever, to try and define a page. Now, using the Lankmar source book is my source. It's got 109 pages, so I'm going to use a D100 and just ignore the sort of contents pages at the end. So I'm going to roll a D100 for a page, a D6 for a paragraph, and a D4 for the sentence or part of a sentence, and try and find that text. So the dice roller, the D100s are these green ones. There's my D6, there's my D4. So let's roll it all, and I get 00, page 100, paragraph 3, the sentence or sentence part 1. So here's page 100. Paragraph 3 goes 1, 2, 3. It's the stats, so I'll skip the stats. And sentence 1 is this bit about the Leviathan. So I copy that into the text editor. And now I repeat that process to get a second page paragraph. So page 48, paragraph 3, sentence 2. So let's find page 48, 48, 3 and 2. So 1, 2, 3, part 2. Well, that's all one sentence, so I carry on reading. It'll be the first sentence of the next paragraph. And I put that in here. Now, so I've got a bunch of text here. Now, the question is, what did my characters think those little clay figures were for? So looking through here, what does this... so heroes of old is the sentence that really stands out to me. And so they're thinking that maybe these little figures are representations of either a hero of old or if they're all different. I can't remember if they're all different or not. I think they're all the same apart from the generals. So maybe they just see the generals. They don't recognise them as being made of silver and valuable, but they think that these little heroes, maybe they look a little bit like a folk hero. And so that's it. That's my answer. They think that these little figures are the heroes. Now, the nice thing about using this words and method is that sometimes you can pick out the words which have meaning to you, but I'm using a genuine DCC source book and the setting source book. So if there's any cultural references in there, it will relate to the setting world you're in. If there are NPCs that are mentioned, there'll be NPCs your characters may know of, or they may actually meet, or they may have met. It's all really, really on topic. So yeah, that's how the words method works. So you get this little block of text, and you pick out the words which seem are the closest to an answer, and then use a little bit of word association and again the context of what's gone before and the situation you're in. And so that really is it now. I'm coming up for nearly an hour. So yeah, that is so we're playing a written adventure, and this time at the moment oh, actually, I didn't realise. I actually made a DC check for Ted there, but Ted was already dead, which is a pity. So, yep, 2 are still alive. Last time I played this, no one survived to get this far. So, yep, that's it. That's the end of this little bit of actual play. Thank you for watching.